Welcome to Your Next Chapter, where we spotlight the creators shaping the future of podcasting. I'm Jeremiah Tittle. People call me JT. I'm the CEO of Next Chapter Podcasts. We're now turning our attention to how live events are shaping this next chapter of the podcast industry. As someone dreaming up a podcast event in my current hometown, the island of Ibiza, I'm excited to sit down with others in the industry to explore what's possible when audio meets real-life connection. My guest today is Bryan Barletta, founder of Sounds Profitable, the leading trade association for the podcasting business. If you don't already know Sounds Profitable's work, you should. They produce invaluable resources, I'm saying firsthand experiences for the podcast community through their newsletters, podcast industry-leading research, and events, all in service of helping us understand this often very opaque industry more deeply. So earlier this year, Sounds Profitable made industry headlines when they announced a merger with Podcast Movement. And now Bryan holds a new title, President of Podcast Movement. Bryan's been a guest in the show before, but since we're currently exploring this live event concept in the podcasting space, had to bring him back and talk about what's next for Podcast Movement. Bryan, welcome back to Your Next Chapter.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be back and to dig into all of this with you.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to tackle a few things here, but I want to learn kind of where we came from. And I was sad I wasn't in Dallas for Podcast Movement when all this began to unfold. I feel like people were texting me. It was like one of these moments. You're like, did you hear what happened in Dallas? I'm like, I missed one conference and what goes down here. So Bryan, for listeners who might have missed it, walk us through kind of the high level version. What is the merger between Sounds Profitable and Podcast Movement, and why now?
So Podcast Movement acquired Sounds Profitable and then absorbed it so that our team is now running Podcast Movement. So the day-to-day operations and the things that we're prioritizing are still the core Sounds Profitable. That's a through line of every day with the 6 newsletters, the research, the consulting, all of the connective tissue that happens every day, but with 2 anchored events that Podcast Movement has put so much effort into, being really what we're grounding ourselves around, and this increased opportunity to do more events around the globe by partnering with people who already have existing podcasting events or existing events that get in front of the right audiences for podcasting. Because now, instead of just a 4-person team, we're now a 5-person team. Chrissy from Podcast Movement has joined us on the sales side, but we have the whole access to the team that was formerly under Podcast Movement is now under Event Movement to execute all these events. And so the opportunity kind of came up just over the years of us building our lounge space for our partners inside of their event, and then seeing the opportunity. Because look, in the last 5 years, everything's been disrupted with COVID. Kind of, I think that's the easiest thing to point it at. I think that the ability to opt out of things for about a year, maybe more, enabled people to rethink certain things. And I think events were hurt the most of it. I mean, I look at my background in advertising and technology and all that, and so many of the events, I mean, there was the Rain series of events, literally sponsorship was like $30,000 to $50,000, and it gave you 50 tickets to invite people. That was part of your sponsorship. And that model worked until, we took a year off. And now what we're looking at is like, what actually does work? What is the return on investment? What am I actually getting out of it? And I think the big thing that Podcast Movement did was pull people from all levels, from hobbyists, artists, and creators, and then the businesses that spend money with them in different forms or have products for them in different forms, and pulled them all together in one place on a global level. And we're going to kind of melt it back down to that, I guess on a US level, melt it back down to that and appeal not only to the US, but global, not only to the people that are physically just there with us, but the people who want to be there and want to learn from it and grow. So maybe in the future they can join us.
Great. Yeah. I mean, just from being a Podcast Movement in Chicago in the spring, you're a man in demand. I mean, you have, every 15 minutes booked out or whatever it was, and also providing a lot of value in that short period of time. So I know the acquisition means that, Podcast Movement is getting, in my opinion, a star. I know you're on my shows, so you're being, catered to maybe too much.
Very generous.
But no, I got a lot of value out of it. And there were some things that I hadn't thought of that you did, just kicking around ideas that were great. who should we be talking to? The networking was really valuable to me. So that's obvious. So I was just wondering how you see Sound Profitable's work enhancing podcast movement, maybe beyond you. What other value was in this acquisition in terms of all that you've built over time, and then now joining forces?
First off, Podcast Movement owns half of Pod News, and we're really focused on making sure that James is autonomous in how he runs that and operates it. Whereas, now Tom Webster and I are 49% owners of Podcast Movement. James and Podcast Movement are 50-50 owners. So he has a lot more autonomy there. We want to make sure that that's there, but we want to support it. How can we make sure that he can take the swings he wants to expand his business and be that representative for the news covering all aspects of podcasting? Where we focus on the business side, I tend to focus on the mindset of creator, right? To me, a creator is the hobbyist or the artist who is ready to make money on it. And that is how I use that word. I think some people use that word as executives. I think some people use that word as to define artists. But I think that if this isn't something that is a financial interest to you, then I think creator is the wrong word. I think there's plenty of room for podcast artists and hobbyists and all of that, and we want to foster that. But I think we want to further solidify and prove that we're here for those creators from the things that we can provide. 99% of what we do is freely available. Our research isn't gated. The events that we do, there's always opportunities for people in the open space to participate in before we were even acquired by Podcast Movement. It really just comes down to the consulting, the direct networking, and all of that, some of the additional opportunities there. So we want to continue that, but we're finding and exploring ways outside of just the events where we can tap in other people. As there's been shifts in the market and whatnot, are there other people that we can pull in that are better champions to I'm looking to make my first $1,000, or I got a job when the industry started shifting, and while I did get 2 or 3 years building dream projects, I'm now struggling with the fact that I have to just do work for hire and not work on things that were passionate and exciting to me. And I'm struggling with that. So we are looking for ways to expand that. But I think that when we look at podcasting, it's one of the best opportunities for people in the creative space to make a career out of it, to make a 6-figure job, to be able to freelance like that, to start a company with 20 people or less and work better hours with cooler people and make more money than you were previously. I think that there's just some of the market trends and timing that we want to help people be more aware of and help out with that with all the things we do, and provide the space and opportunity for the people who maybe miss the first train to catch the second one.
And I have to say, as far as the history of podcast movement and what you saw the conference as, I think Christy's awesome, and it's so great that she's on the team here. I was just going to ask about maybe some element of the DNA of podcast movement. What else are you happy that is the core of podcast movement is staying intact? I'm curious.
I think we're going to be able to kind of amplify a lot of things that Podcast Movement wanted to do. And, one of the things that Dan emphasized in the press releases and whatnot was that Podcast Movement became kind of reactive to where the industry is moving. And now we're going to be ahead of the curve, to be kind of leading and pulling those people out there. And so I think we want to do a better job at leaning into the community. Southby is going to be a little bit of a different beast, but hopefully by the time this comes out, it'll be announced that on each of the 3 days that we have at Southby, while we are having to work through kind of sponsored content, because it's not a ticketed event, you don't need our ticket or Southby's ticket, but I do need to emphasize that there is a capacity. And like Southby events, the reason why you get a pass for these events is that if you can't get into one thing, you do go to something else. So I do need to stress that. We are going to be putting up each day 4 10-minute TED Talk style panels from our community. And so we're going to open those up for deciding the themes, deciding submissions, open voting on that, and then public presentation of that, with a goal of trying to figure out how to give an honorarium to those people to come out, not just comping them a ticket, not just giving them the exposure, but really just saying there's hard financial costs in you coming out. Let's figure out what we can do to offset that, to kind of show where we're aiming for New York, because New York is going to, our goal with New York, our goal with all these events in the future is to get several months ahead on whose panel has been selected, how the process goes, how visible it is, who can vote, and all of that, and make it more community based. Very few panels for sale, a handful completely curated by us, right? Really reducing that perception of sponsorship for some of these things and changing that around so that the people that want to teach and that have interesting things are being judged by their peers on if those are things that will command attention. And then finding out, 2 months beforehand so that the audience can say, hey, as a creator, I'd like to buy just one of these 2 days to attend, right? To reduce the burden on them on that end. Or as a speaker, it's easier to get your hotel and flight and everything booked out there. So I think Podcast Movement's mindset of embodying podcasting, the open opportunity for everybody to speak, I think we're going to refine that. And then we're going to continue with that mindset that all of the content as quickly as possible will be freely available to everyone, because it is about extending and growing the whole industry. And that's a core part of Podcast Movement and Sounds Profitable. And we're working to improve it. It took about a month, but I kind of sprung it on the team last minute this year. But the goal is to get it faster, maybe even explore live streaming, because I want to educate everyone. And I think that's Podcast Movement really stands for that opportunity there. And what we're going to do is just kind of refine some of the things that weren't necessarily not working, but might've been pointy edges.
Last year, you pioneered the first ever podcasting event at South by Southwest Summit. Kind of blows my mind given what Austin has become. Little California. I don't know. There's probably a much better joke or phrase for what Texas and Austin specifically have become with just the amount of tech. I mean, the last time I went was more than a decade ago, or about a decade ago. And it was just teeming with tech people. It was really just, so I'm just curious, this year podcasts are also entering Golden Globes for the first time. What does it mean for the podcast industry to have a seat at a major entertainment festival like this at South by? I'm curious.
I think there's 2 ways to look at where podcasting should be. And I think it's that there are people that associate with podcasting, that word means something to them. And we want our podcast movement events will be that, right? That will be the anchor event where we say we are podcasting. Come together. This is your event as much as it is ours. Use it as a place where you're proud to invite people in to have meetings and connect with them, or to show off the best of the best. But we are a stage and a spotlight. I don't need to be on stage. I don't want to. I am able to help people who are more interesting than me get their voices out there and accomplish the same goals, and really even broadcast them a little bit louder, it feels like. And so events like South by and what we're doing at in New York is all about, we are podcasting. We're here collectively together. Come learn about us, come experience it, see the best of it. And that's not easy. I mean, South by used to be 14 days. Now it's 8 days. And so we're overlapping with the official podcast panels, which are about 100-person capacity in a hotel. There's 3 different stages in that hotel area, and they're super exciting. I mean, I'm pumped to be part of them. I'm actually on one of those panels, so I'll have to bounce over there at one point. But they've lost the convention center this year, and our goal was, how do we do something a little bit more standout? 100 people wasn't enough for us. The lack of branding and the ability to dig into that was enough for us. So we bought, instead of just 1 day last year, we bought 3 days of partner content, and we produced it ourselves with the help of the event movement team at a location called Skybox on 6th Street. And it's gorgeous. We're going to be able to do a full partner content all 3 days during the day. So 4 panels. We're going to be able to do breakfast, lunch, and happy hour, where are sponsored by different people to pull in different thought leaders and really kind of explore things there. And then the final part is live performances at night, which we are getting as weird as possible. We're trying to find one group or one show or something every single night that is a little bit more collaborative, right? Mm-hmm. Things that can pull from the other shows in the rest of the night, so that we can say, this could only happen in the overlap between podcasting and South by Southwest. What type of celebrities or notable podcasters or up and coming indies being on stage with other people that they would never have the opportunity to? How do we theme that and make that exciting so that we do compete with some of the bigger events there? And I think it's a celebration, right? And so part of that is, how do we highlight all of those independents and the people who care about it? How do we highlight the people who can fill a room and draw a crowd? How do we get all the marketers in there, the buyers and the advertisers and everybody, so that they can see that, and maybe we can make more money as an industry and drive things forward, and just kind of plant the flag and say, this is podcasting. Whereas a lot of the other events that we're exploring is, how do we get podcasting a seat mixed in at their table, right? Not always just like standalone. And it's a fine line, because sometimes it's just as valuable to get 200 people from podcasting to show up as it is to say, this is our base, you should come to us.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's cool to hear you explain it that way. Yeah, I mean, how many podcasters does it take to fill up a rock band? I mean, I guess we may find out.
We're actually exploring that. Can we end with musical numbers? Is there an opportunity for a cooking show? Is there something unique and raw and scripted that we can do together and have fun? Like, I want to create something compelling at night that pull people in, to make them excited and proud of it, to show off why they're in podcasting and what they care about it. That's what's really exciting for me. And we get 3 full days and nights to knock that out of the park at Southby.
No, it's exciting. Which place is weirder? You live in Portland, right? There's a lot of keep Portland weird. Portland is?
I lived in Austin for about 4 years. I felt like Austin was weird when you went in the front door of the establishment. Portland's weird from the sidewalk to the bathroom. And yeah, what I will say is that after 8 years in Texas and moving to Portland, Portland's got astounding food. I'm going to get yelled at for this. After living in New York, bagels and pizza are really great here. The coffee is astounding. The ice cream is top notch. I miss breakfast tacos. I miss breakfast tacos so much. There might not be a better breakfast than a breakfast taco. Everything else makes me want to take a nap.
Oh man. Yeah. Tacos. Wow. It's very high on the list for sure. Okay. Future of podcast movement, line of questions here. I wanted to ask you, there's so many different industry conferences and events, and you attend many of them. I know you do. How do you think about what differentiates podcast movement from the rest? Like, I think you answered a bit there.
It's yours. It's all of yours. That's it. Like, some parts of it aren't going to feel like that for a little bit, because, we're not going to have the hotel. We're not going to have that lobby bar and all of that. But like, it needs to be yours, but with guests. And so that means, how do we pick it up and move it? How do we get a little bit of new kid in a new town type of feeling out of it? How do we feel a little bit out of our element, but remember that we're all the hosts? Like, more and more, I'm figuring out, how do we put everybody's name and logo and everything on walls? Like, why do I need blank walls, right? Like, let's celebrate everyone. Let's put everything interesting in there. I think that when I think about podcast movement, I want to think that every single person who buys a ticket feels proud that they're there, and it feels like part of what they want to grow and learn from, part of where they want to contribute to in the future. But it also has to do that. I believe that it has to carve out space for the people who just want to do business, right? Who want to do those business deals that kind of fund all of it, but they need to go hand in hand. And I think that in the past, we need to really, the people that are spending that money to make these things happen, I want them to feel that energy and be right next to it. So, the creator tickets in New York are like, for creators, it's the reason why we're not selling tickets at South by, and we're not enforcing the tickets. We were able to buy a sponsorship that does not require it. They do want us to prioritize their tickets, but if you're in line, like, we're not going to have 2 separate lines. And, in New York, like, we took people to heart. We want daily tickets. We want them as cheap as possible for the creator side of it. In the creator area, when I say that, that's where the content is, the workshops, the expo halls. The business side will be a little bit broken out, but that'll be where they're talking to brands and agencies and holding companies, and having a little bit more with like that type of business transaction space. But the creators, I want the creators to own it, and I want them to believe that. And I think what's tough is, I can affect change very quickly as sounds profitable, right? Someone could be upset. You could tell me, Bryan, I have a massive pitch. Can you fly out here and let's figure this out? And I can, right? I'm saying, hey guys, trust us. By March, we'll show you that we're not going to mess it up completely in September. And then even then, the big thing that I want to say is, we will never nail it 100%, but we will never tell you that we believe we nailed it 100%. We're going to start being more serious about postmortems and clarity on that. We're going to start being serious on how we help and take feedback. But sometimes that feedback is going to be, hey, we have a budget and we could use your help to help solve this because we are not qualified to solve it. So how do we get your help? How do we get the people that are affected by this to help and really spread that out? So that's kind of the focus there.
I love it. No, it's super helpful. Why'd you decide New York?
All the buyers are there. That's the truth of it. Like the first one is all the buyers are there, and if all the buyers are there, then all the publishers with major talent are there, and if all the publishers with major talent are there, then all the creators who want to be part of those major networks, or even the middle medium sized networks, or want to directly pitch the buyers are going to want to come out to it, which means that we'll have a bigger pool for the type of content that's being submitted on stage, and the type of content that we can pull in for the truly curated, like high level presentation that we want to have there. I think that New York becomes a central hub for a lot of people. I think that New York gives you a lot of flight opportunities too. If you want to go to Newark and take the train, and there's so many options there. And I think not anchoring it to a hotel is going to say like, hey, we're going to be really respectful for the hours that we ask of you. So if you need to commute a little in to save money, we are here for you.
I was just going to ask you before I start telling you about this event in Ibiza that I have been ruminating over, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. But with the New York City event announced, what can past attendees expect will feel different, and what will still feel familiar?
I think that we want to emphasize the value of human connections more than ever. And so getting it a little bit more condensed or a better flow for it, plenty of places to meet and sit and talk, to get coffee and food that's a little bit higher caliber, I would say, to captivate your attention with content that's been really curated and challenged to be the best and worthy of the time. I think those are the core things there. I think the meetings in the hallway or connecting with people there are really fun. I think we're going to get out of the way for people's breakfasts. I think we're trying to figure out and being realistic about what we could do for an evening party and kind of get out of people's way. It's New York. It would be amazing if every partner that participates in this event, whether just attending or sponsoring, whether they're not even a partner, right? Anybody, if you're an independent, start looking into venues in New York in September and getting dates where you could do a live show, where you could invite people out to it. I will promote it. I will promote anything anyone does around that event, as long as it doesn't compete with our hours during our event. That's something I want to stand by. If you are really that enterprising to do that, why wouldn't I want to help you succeed, right? That's fantastic. So we're really going to emphasize meetups and connecting people, really going to emphasize visibility in those events, and not hindering anybody from doing an event, and really making it available and visible for everybody and trying to focus on connections there. But I think we'll miss that summer camp feel a little bit. But I think that the professionalism and ownership hopefully will make up for it.
So in terms of events, I've never run one before. First red flag. But no, I very much have enjoyed becoming a resident of this island that's known for one thing, but it's got so much more than that. The unknown, or the lesser known, is that there's a lot of people into wellness. So my idea is, maybe in a crawl before you walk, before you run, likely scenario, to create a conference here for podcasters. Since you have this experience with conferences, podcast conferences specifically, do you think this is a good idea? What questions should I be asking myself at this early stage?
Is your goal to grow podcasting in Ibiza, or is it to grow podcasting and have an event in Ibiza?
Ooh, I think the latter. I think it's to have an event here and to grow podcasting.
So then in that scenario, what you have to look at is, who are the people in podcasting that can afford to come out there, right? And so some of these, like, it's a great example. People tell me that South by Southwest is too expensive, and I say, look, before COVID, I would believe you on that. I would agree with that, but I priced out my trip from Portland to Austin and my hotel like 30-minute walk away from where the venue is going to be, and it's about the same, if not less, before tickets, I believe. My hotel and flight are very similar. And then there's no ticket that I need to come to our stuff there. I do encourage a South by ticket. You can get away with the music pass. There's a lot of interesting things there. But I think it's a perception thing. I hear that. I hear international travel. I immediately think $1,500 for a ticket,
Right.
right? Round trip.
Yeah.
So then we got that. We have the hotels. So what is it? 3 nights? Let's say 500 a night, just to like estimate. So we're 3,000 deep. Now, what's the price for the event itself? Let's say it's 1,000. One thing that people don't think about a lot is, and I think this is where a lot of our strength comes from and sounds profitable. And my experience here is set a price once and don't change it. Right? It can go lower. I very much believe you should be comfortable with it going lower, but I don't think you should really increase it. I think if it's valuable, go wider. I think sell it out earlier. I think bundle it with different things, but I am not a huge fan of increasing the prices on things, because it's then very easy to just get in the habit that it increases every year, not it increases when values increased, because that becomes dangerous. So ticket prices need to be pretty static on that end, sponsorship, all of that. So we're looking at $4,000 for me to get in the door there. We're not even talking about food and entertaining. Let's call it another $5,000. So I think the hard part there is the barrier to entry for someone not local is so expensive that you need to guarantee who is going to be there. Now, there are a bunch of events that run things like this, and what they do, like Beat Retreat, BEET, Retreat. They do things like this, and they'll do it on resorts and all sorts of things there, but they will fly out the leaders of major companies, CMOs, all those things that they want on stage. They'll pay for their whole trip to get them out there with the hope and expectation that they stick around. They do some marketing collateral and things like that. And that often can make it valuable, because then people want to come out. They want to sponsor the happy hours. They want to sponsor the parties. They want to pay to be on panels. But now what you're doing is you're selling an event, right? And at the end of the day, selling an event can go at odds with helping an industry. An event has to make money as an event. And so the benefit here is there's so many things that I get to look at, and I go, we have to do right by this. It will benefit all of us in the future. It might drive more partners. It might drive more research sponsors. It might drive more, so many different things. I just have to not lose money, or if I lose money, I have to be able to show where that comes from. And so the biggest thing that I would say to you is that, like, I think that there's a high startup cost for something like this, because you have to say, why is this unmissable? Why does everybody need to come out here? I think that it's a high touch thing. A lot of people will want to say, like, it's too overwhelming for me to get out there. And you say, oh, we'll just book it for you, right? Like, we have a whole service, we take care of it. But then the content, the value of the business has to be overwhelmingly valuable. It has to not conflict with other things. December and July, in the big schedule that I'm putting together, December and July are pretty open. I don't think I want to go to a warmer place in July. I lived in Texas for 8 years. Maybe December is interesting, but it's like, how early in December before it's hitting holidays? Like, do I really want to do that? Right. And I'm sure it gets expensive there around the holidays anyways too. But the hard part with that is that the only way for this to be successful is that if you just spend the money and do it. Yeah. And then instead of saying, if I had the support, I could do this, instead saying, I'm doing this, who wants to participate?
Totally. I love that energy. And I think it's just a universal law, right? Like, if you come in, like, knocking on doors saying, like, we are in, are you? I just think that's so much more powerful psychologically. It makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. But the area I would say that, like, would be interesting, that would be worth something like that, would be like, there are not a lot of people left in big media that are commissioning podcasts, right? That are doing 250K deals or 500 or anything like that, right? Deals to go build that podcast that you have an idea for. We're going to grow it and sell ads. We're going to get the IP adopted into books and movies and TV shows and all that. If you got the 10 leading people that were interested in that to come out and do like a day there, where it was like one day of content, like you arrived one night, a little bit of content in the afternoon, but with like a killer morning experience, interacting with each other, and then something completely unique at night. And then the next morning before everybody goes out, something else unique. And it was a way for people to network on that end. I think that something like that, doing it 50 people, 30 people, something like real small, would be astounding. And then your cost to get those 10 people out there, let's say it's $5K a head, right? So that's $50,000. You have whatever the venue is with food and drink and entertainment and things unique and local. You can probably get that under another 50 to 100 on there. So let's call it 150.
Mm-hmm.
And then with 50 attendees there, it's 3,000 a head you have to accomplish somehow. But how do you subsidize that with, is there a big sponsor that wants to be involved? Is there someone who wants to have a little bit more attention or something there? But then what you've created, even if you break even, is the place where deals like that get made.
Yeah.
And something that pushes it a little bit more past a bunch of important people talking to a bunch of interested and likely important people too, right? It's a community, it's a conversation. So I think the things you need to think about are, how do I go for as small as possible with the highest value invite only? And then through that value, figure out other interests, figure out, can it grow and where it can grow? But if you were the guy that everybody needed to hit up for one of 20 passes to this exclusive thing that happened once a year and it broke even, what a cool marketing opportunity. Sure. What a great benefit for you and your business and all that to be at the forefront of it. I think that we discredit the fact that everything needs to make money. Like that should be a end goal. It's marketing. 100%
networking, marketing. Demonstrating you have a vision for something and executing. I mean, I think that's great advice. I'm glad I'm asking you and had you back on the show. Really grateful for you taking the time today. Appreciate it, Bryan.
Heck yeah. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Next Chapter. I'm your host, JT. Jeremiah Tittle. Our executive producer is Emily Reeves. Edited by Justin Cortese. And we drop episodes bi-weekly. Please follow the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much, Bryan, for the time.